Kia ora, bula, and namaste. My name is Ashvini, and welcome to the podcast of mental health in ethnic communities, organized by Apna Network in Sid. And today, joining with us is Charlene Prasad, who is the practice leader of ASHA Services. So, welcome, Charlene.
Thank you, Ashwini. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Charlene Prasad. I'm a qualified counselor and addictions practitioner, and I'm the practice leader for ASHA Services. We are the South Asian arm of Asian Family Services, and we work mostly with South Asian clients.
Okay. Charlene, just before we start today, we're here to talk about well-being and mental health well-being. So as a counselor, Charlene, what does mental health and well-being mean to you?
So well-being in general has a lot of components. There is physical well-being, mental and psychological well-being. There is spiritual well-being, as well as social well-being. So it has a lot of components to me. And well-being for me looks like when we address these different components. When something is not right in those components, we are aware of it, and then we do things to address it or seek support.
So that's well-being. And what would mental health mean to you?
Mental health for me means that it's our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It's how we think, act, and feel, and also how we relate to others. And when at certain times when we are facing challenges, we may not have the resources or the emotional skills to cope with those things. And it's during those times that our mental health gets impacted.
Okay. So when you talk about, how do we manage our mental well-being, like what are some techniques or things that you can do to make yourself feel good or connected?
So there are some things that we can do. I think important is being aware when you're not feeling okay, and when we're not physically unwell. I mean, we know because our body is telling us we are not unwell, but when we are not well emotionally, sometimes it's easy to dismiss it as, okay, we're having a bad day, or I'm just feeling a bit down, and people are not really addressing just the emotional unwellness that they're experiencing. And so the important thing is being aware of your emotions. And some of the things that we can do to help with our mental health or well-being is, first things is, being physically active. And that means different things to different people. Do what's comfortable for you. If being physically active means going for a walk, maybe 3 or 4 times a day, then that's great. And for some other people, being physically active would mean, 1 hour at the gym and then 1 hour on a bike ride. So it's what's comfortable for you.
Yeah.
Another thing is connecting to other people. So it's important to be around people who we care about and who care about us, our whānau connection, our connection with our wider family. So that's also something, or family or friends who you feel comfortable with, and who, I guess there's that, your support circle. You can connect with those people. Another thing is that you can do to, I guess, look after your well-being is learning new skills. And learning new skills doesn't mean, enrolling at a university and, studying for 1-2 years. It's what works for you. It's also about doing short courses, or it's also about learning a new language, going at your pace. And then it's also around giving others, volunteering. If you've got some free time, what makes you feel good? This is something that can give you that sense of purpose, helping others. And also about gratitude and paying attention to your present moment. I think at times when we feel we are working towards making changes in our lives, making positive changes in our lives, some days we feel it's not working, even though we are trying and it's not working. But even in those days, if you just are aware of, enjoy the present moment, are aware that, okay, you are doing things to improve things in your life, that's also growth.
Yeah. So it's basically like self-care, looking after yourself and,
Mm.
your emotional, your physical, your mental, everything. So
Yeah.
something like you would do, say, when you say physical exercise, like something part of your hobby, maybe go for a walk just for a fresh air, things like that.
Yep, things like that. And just being really, attuned to yourself and knowing, okay, maybe something's not right here and I need to address that. I need to do something to, improve that or increase my well-being.
Maybe something like accept your emotions and what you're feeling at that stage.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's good. So Charlene, does mental health change over time?
Of course. So depending on a lot of factors, it does change over time. And that's okay as well, because it's sometimes we experience multiple challenges at a certain point in your life, and maybe the resources that we have may not be sufficient in that particular situation. And that's the time when we feel it, our well-being is impacted, and so our well-being does change over time, and our mental well-being changes over time, depending on challenges that we experience, external circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. So what are some things that you would advise our audience on to do to maintain, a good and connected well-being?
Some of the things that I mentioned previously, the five ways of well-being, that's well researched.
Yeah.
But apart from that, there's also little things that you can do. I think when we think about making changes, at times that can be quite overwhelming, because we feel it's very overwhelming to make big changes. So it's about also focusing on the little things that you do that can also make a significant difference on your well-being. So these are some of the things, making sure that you have a good diet or have good meals.
Yeah.
These are the things. So some of the little changes that you can make is, if you're cutting down on sugary drinks, so substituting, say, a sugary fizzy drink for water, or, something that contains less sugar. Another thing that people can do is have a good sleep routine. So going to bed at a certain time, not being on their devices, and, making sure that they have the required hours of sleep, and so they feel good in the morning. And another thing is, exercise is quite important. It's also, like I said before, it is actually what is comfortable for you. Get some form of physical exercise.
So basically, like, practice some mindfulness techniques, right?
Yeah. And that could be, again, you don't need to, dedicate 1 hour, 2 hours of your day on mindfulness. It's just taking out 10 minutes and finding a quiet place and practicing some deep breathing, just being in the present moment. Or even things like when you're having your morning coffee, just being present in that moment and enjoying your cup of coffee. And another thing is, having a morning routine. So that could be getting up in the morning, doing maybe 10 minutes of any exercise that you feel comfortable doing, then having your coffee. It could be your morning routine, and it doesn't need to match another person's or your friend's morning routine. It's your morning routine, and that that just that's a good way to start your day, just having that routine and then starting your day with a clear, positive mind.
Yeah, so it's like self-care, prioritizing yourself before, others or anything else.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So it's like self-love.
Yes, self-compassion.
Yeah,
yes.
Definitely. So Charlene, what would be some of the barriers to prevent people from reaching out for support regarding their mental health?
So as a clinician, some of the things that I see in the work that we do are factors such as shame and stigma
Yes.
that prevents people from reaching out for support. And this comes from either, perceived stigma or self-stigma,
Yeah.
people thinking, oh, what other people might think about us, or, having that sense of embarrassment.
Yeah.
But it's mental health is just as important as your physical health, and it's absolutely okay to not be okay at certain times in your life.
Yeah.
But what's not okay is if you bottle those feelings. What's not okay if you don't get the appropriate help that you deserve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's what's not okay is if you don't do anything about it. Yeah, because if you don't look after your mental well-being, then you might look well from the outside, but it can develop into something serious over time.
Yeah.
And other things that may prevent people from seeking support is that they may not know where to seek support.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Or they might not really know what counseling is. They might have some, I guess, preconceived myths about what counseling is. So that's also important to let people know that, if you come to counseling, that does not mean you'll be labeled. That does not mean you'll be called crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming to counseling is you working on your mental well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all counselors in New Zealand are under a professional body. All registered counselors are under a professional body, and they need to keep your information confidential. So another factor as a clinician that I can observe in clients is that issue of confidentiality.
Yes.
People are reluctant to seek support because they feel the personal information that they share then might be shared with other people that they know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, mental health is just as important as your physical health, like you said. We would go to the doctor if we had a headache or, a sore hand. It's the same thing. If we're not feeling, okay, or we're quite down, we can always go see a doctor. It's just part of our well-being, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like we all have this energy meter in our body, this invisible energy meter that we need to focus on as well, because once it depletes, it's very hard for us to charge it back. So it's around, recharging it, knowing and really recognizing when we're not doing well and doing things then to improve that.
Yeah. Oh, just before we end this conversation, Shirlene, is there any takeaway messages you'd like to share with our audience about mental health and well-being in general?
All I would want to say is that, again, your mental health is just as important as your physical health. And also, we all have responsibilities. It's about finding your balance. But it is important that you find a balance between your work and your personal life, and just have time to look after yourself. Because if we are not well 100%, how can we look after others?
Correct.
Yeah. So focus on yourself so that you may be able to better help others.
Thank you, Shirlene, for sharing your views on mental health, and it was a pleasure having you here today. So like Shirlene said, Asha Services is a support service for our South Asians living here in New Zealand, and we provide free and confidential counseling service for anyone that is impacted by gambling harm, but also emotional support. So if you or anyone you may know that needs any emotional support can always contact Asha Services on 0800 862 342. We are open from Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 5 p.m. It is definitely okay to ask for support because your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Thank you.